so I'm going to call to order our Economic Development Committee for Tuesday, August 18, 2026. And physical quorum of the members physically present. I'll entertain a motion to permit those members not physically present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or for the business of the board, or family or other emergency or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. I did hear a motion from Member Heather. Do I have a second?
Perfect.
Thank you, Member Childress. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Welcome, Member Martinez, Member Galassi. Can I get a roll call?
Chair Yu,
Here.
Vice Chair Galassi,
Here.
Member Martinez,
Here.
Member Eckhoff,
Here.
Member Childress, Member Heather.
All right. So thank you. We are starting a little bit late because GPS went over and we didn't have physical quorum, but we are starting now. So I don't have any other remarks other than thank you so much for being here and joining us. Okay, so we have no public comment, correct?
Correct.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes 26-2076 from June 16, 2026? And I did get a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, are there any revisions or edits to these minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And that passes. And procurement requisitions, can I get a motion for 26-2157? Recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Executive Pulse for a CRM database for the Workforce Development Division for the period of September 1, 2026 to August 31, 2027 for a contract total amount not to exceed $12,500 per RFP. I did get a motion and a second. Any questions with regard to this item? Apparently we had gotten a lot of bids on this, and this was the most reasonable, affordable, I guess. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that passes. All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to combine 7A to 7O for the incumbent worker training memos. Did you get a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Again, from Member Eckhoff. And then can I get a motion to receive and place? I'm sorry. Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And that passes. Okay, so can I get a motion to receive and place on file 7A 26-1954 Camcraft, 7B 26-1955 Border Heating and Air Conditioning, 7C 26-1967 Village of Carroll Stream Public Works, and then 26-1960 Dursilver Electric Mortars, 26-1969 Easter Seals DuPage and Fox Valley, 26-1970 Canary Engineering and Manufacturing, 26-1971 Koi Computers, 26-1972 Matrix Plastic Products, 26-1973 Reliable Information Technology, 26-1974 RKC Cleaners, 26-1975 Simplex System Controls, 26-1976 Talk Pressotechnic, 26-1977 Walker Midwest, 26-1978 Indian Boundary YMCA, finally 26-2075 Abrasive West LLC. We got a motion from Member Heather and a second, please. Second from Member Eckhoff. Thank you. Any questions with regard to these incumbent worker trading memos? There were a lot because this was the end of the program year, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Oh, Member Eckhoff, yeah.
Well, that was my first question. There seemed to be a lot. There's a lot more than last year. Or...
Yeah, actually, we did that kind of tease up a slide in my presentation, but it was, we did a lot of incumbent worker training this year, and the end of the program year, like our last quarter, last month or so, we did like an all out push. We got a bunch of projects in that we were able to improve.
So this is to help train people.
This is to train, yes, for companies to, it reimburses the cost for companies to train portions of their current workforce to upskill workers for a variety of different reasons.
I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody. I probably asked you before. Is once these people get trained up, how long do they stay? Do we have any mechanism to try and keep a handle on that so we know when we're spending county money it actually benefits the county?
So we don't, the Illinois state system doesn't track longitudinal. I knew you were going to ask this, member Eckhoff. We don't have, no, I mean, I completely respect the question. I wish we had the data for the longitudinal kind of like employment retention. we have it through like the end of the project for these particular projects and that's it. Then we just have sort of anecdotal, like if we check back in with the company a year later
Like
and
I
ask
said,
how
can we
it's
just send them a letter, tickle up on the calendar, the date that's 1 year and send them out the letter?
Yeah.
saying, Hey, is Joe still there?
That's what we're going to start more of a campaign to do that now on our own, because I don't believe our new case management system that they just launched does this either, unfortunately. So we're going to ask for long-term, the state launched a
State
new,
doesn't care when we spend money.
yeah, not me. You know, I'm just saying, but yes, we are gonna start a campaign to routinely kind of maybe 1 year later, 3 years later, check in, not only for the retention, obviously, but also just for the ongoing impact of these projects on the companies.
All right, so next year. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
begin.
confident
Letters go out.
we'll have better information. I might not be 100%, but yes.
Great,
Is the goal.
thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? And that passes. Thank you, and thank you, members Rajewski and Evans for being here. All right, so we're moving on to our presentation by Lisa Schbach.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Here once again at the end, beginning of a new program year, reporting on the end of our last program year. So as you all are aware, our program year runs July 1 through June 30. So it's different than other fiscal years, which just adds to the complication of everything for it. But this will be a report on our PY 25 program year 25 WIOA allocation. Want to go to the next slide? So to give you an idea again of what that allocation looked like this past year, you have the budget numbers for each of our 3 main funding streams. For review, those are adult, which is focused on people who are low income eligible, public assistance recipients. Typically, those are SNAP recipients that we're working with, or people that are basic skills deficient. That has been for a number of years post-COVID, by far our most, I don't want to say popular, but most heavily utilized funding stream. We're serving majority of people through that grant. Dislocated workers are people who have been laid off, who are either collecting unemployment or who have exhausted unemployment. That also is where we fund those incumbent worker projects out of. And then our young adults, of course, ages 17 to 24, typically again meet low income eligibility guidelines or have some kind of qualifying barrier, like they have a documented disability or maybe some kind of criminal justice system involvement, pregnant parenting youth, things like that. The required benchmarks there are the ways in which we're mandated by the Department of Labor to handle these dollars every program year. So we have to expend or obligate at least 80% of each of those funding streams. That's the big one. Then 50% is an Illinois state requirement. At least half of that allocation has to be spent directly on either individuals or businesses, so direct training and not admin and overhead and that. 75% minimum for out-of-school youth, rather than high school students or students that are already in a college. And then a 20% work-based learning requirement for young adults, and I'll talk a little bit about work-based learning later in the presentation. So that kind of sets the scene for some of kind of the high-level requirements each program year. And here is how we did this year. So you can see that for each of the 3 funding streams, we far exceeded the 80% when all was said and done, particularly on adult and young adult. And then that bottom executive summary, those are the big 4 benchmarks. Don't ask me, please, Member Eckhoff or anybody, why it starts on benchmark 2 and not 1. I still do not have an answer after 20 plus years of doing this work. I'm not sure why. But benchmark 2 there is the total obligations for each of the grants. So in sum, we ended up 12% above where we needed to be. You can see the 2 youth measures there, benchmarks 3 and 4. We exceeded both of those. We far exceeded the work-based learning requirement. And then the direct training requirement is something I'm always particularly proud of, because it used to be 40%. The switch to 50% was a big game changer for areas across the state, because it's not easy to manage your budget with that constraint, especially in times when you need to be paying staff more to retain and all of those sorts of things. And once again, we did quite well on that measure, 6% above what we needed. Okay, so the two dual customer focus that we have through the WIOA program are job seekers and businesses. To start with job seekers, obviously the goal is to empower unemployed or underemployed people in the county so that they can get onto high demand career tracks that allow for economic stability. And those are the four types of job seeker services. The training services, individual training accounts are what we're primarily known for. That's our bread and butter, where the majority of our funding goes every year. Work-based learning is something that is being increasingly emphasized by the federal and state governments, and we're working toward increasing the volume of that year over year. You want to go to the next slide? This gives you an idea for this program here of those training services. So anybody that received funding to attend an occupational training or education program, this year we funded 440 individuals. They received a total of 819 training vouchers. 312 of those were new clients, and we had 128 carryover from last program year. We closed the cases of 255 client cases. So a very busy, for our purposes, program year. And we included the top zip codes on there. You see kind of that heat map, but those are the 10 or so that we this year saw the most applicants from.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
So is it because you're doing more outreach in these particular zip codes, or these are just people who are just sui sponte coming to you?
You know, this past year we didn't do much targeted outreach because we had the volume coming in to utilize all of our resources. In the past, several of those are kind of target zip codes that we have focused on due to higher unemployment rates or lower pockets of income eligible households. So I think maybe there's some residual effect of that, but these tend to be some of the more popular, for whatever reason, popular zip codes kind of, I would say, year over year.
Year over year.
Yeah. It's somewhat consistent, believe it or not, although it is a little bit surprising to see Addison not on there this year because we've historically gotten a lot of people from the Addison area. I think Carrie had, I can't read it, but I think it's Carrie. Yeah. Has a question?
Oh, yes. Carrie,
Yeah.
Member Blassie.
Yeah, thank you. I just was curious. I know that you guys have done outreach in the Hinsdale Lake Terrace area. And I don't know if they would hit the heat map because of their, it's not a huge area, but as far as population goes, but how has the reception been from that community?
It's not, there's not as many people, like when we attend those events, for example, Member Galassi, like we had the resource fair last year. I think there's one coming up next month. We don't get the type of response that I would love to see. We do get some. The other trick with that area, to be honest, is sometimes some of the addresses in that area come up under other towns, like for example, Hinsdale, or we've seen Burr Ridge. So I don't know if there's some kind of idiosyncrasies with the zip codes in that pocket. So I think that might be a factor too, that we don't have the sophisticated enough data capture to get like everybody from that specific complex there. But in that whole area, Hinsdale Lake Terrace and kind of the surrounding areas, we have noticed that sometimes their individual's town or zip code comes up different than Willowbrook. So if we look at Willowbrook alone, it's not necessarily capturing everybody.
Okay. Do you think, is there anything that like you think we could do as board members that just to help that the outreach in that community or the participation from that community?
To be completely transparent with you, I don't know what would help because I personally have been involved with that community for over 5 years now, attending evening events and being parts of task forces and things like that. And we still never see the degree of engagement that we would like. And I don't know exactly why. I've tried to do surveys and things like that. I don't know if it's a transportation barrier, it's a childcare barrier, whatever it is. But for some reason or other, we don't see the volume that I think we could potentially see, but I don't have a really strong answer for like what we could do to change that.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions, Member Galassi?
No, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Member Heather.
Thank you, Chair. Lisa, could you expound a little bit on the 255 client cases closed part? How do you close a case? What are some of the parameters that they have to hit for you to say case closed?
That's a great question. Thank you. So typically, in an ideal circumstance, it would be the person has completed their services and they've obtained full-time employment. And then we typically don't immediately close or exit their case until they retain that employment, you know, for a period of maybe a quarter. Sometimes that will vary depending on the person's circumstances. For example, if it's a professional, you know, with a long kind of consistent work history and they land some kind of high-ranking position, we might exit them, close them sooner. If it's somebody who's kind of struggled with their employment record, we might keep them a little longer to make sure that they retain. But it all centers around employment retention, essentially. Unfortunately, sometimes we do close cases that aren't a positive exit. You're not, you know, every single person doesn't end positive. So sometimes somebody might just need to be closed because we've run out of, there's, you know, nothing else to do. Or sometimes on rarer occasions, we might lose somebody where they stop remaining in contact with us. But in general, the bulk, as you'll see, are positive exits. Thank you. Okay, next slide. Thanks. Okay, so again, with the training services, this program year, over $2.2 million was provided to 440 job seekers. They attended training across 5 target sectors that are the key sectors of the DuPage local economy. And you can see that breakdown there. This year, this has always been interesting to monitor because it really does align with what's happening in our local economy. As you can see, healthcare became the biggest sector this year for what we were funding people for skill development within, a 9% increase over last year. Historically, going back, say, 10 years, it was always IT, professional services, business services management. And that has started to, well, this is our talking point, right? That, as we know, I think, has started to sort of, it's been flipping for a while, consistently year over year. And so this reflects that. But we still do have a significant amount in DuPage County of so-called like white collar workers or IT professionals. So you do see that 26% there reflected. But 27% was manufacturing and trades this year. That actually overtook for the first year ever the professional services sector. And that's things like advanced manufacturing, but also HVAC and electrical and things of that nature. So it's interesting to me personally as a workforce development geek to kind of follow this and make sure that we're on the right track here. We did serve almost 140 more people with training services than we did last year, which was great. And then the next slide just shows by funding stream where people were going. Another interesting trend, so adult, again, those kind of low income, typically low income individuals, chose healthcare more times than not. A lot of times that might be a single mom who's choosing a nursing program or things of that nature. I have a success story I'll share briefly in a moment. Dislocated workers, again, that professional services type training, project management, that. And then our youth almost tied between manufacturing and healthcare, which was great to see also because such a need, obviously, in our local community. Next slide. So these are our actual WIOA performance measures, of which there are kind of 4 key ones. Credential attainment rate is 1. So obviously, we don't want to be spending all of this money and seeing people are not actually getting an industry recognized credential at the end of it. We actually exceeded our goal. We had 74% of participants, so 3/4 roughly of people that we funded for training actually went all the way through to get not just training completion, but the actual credential if that's sitting for an exam or something like that. There's some sample credentials so you get a feel for what types of things people are being funded for. Nursing is obviously like the closest thing to a silver bullet right now. You get that and you're set. Patient care tech is the entry-level nurse. A number of IT certifications along with CDL truck driving license, and then advanced manufacturing and HVAC. So that's not all inclusive, but it gives you a sense of what people are acquiring skills within. These are another 2 measures here. These are also key ones. Employment second quarter after exit. So remember, Heather, like to your question, that quarter in which you close that file, the measure looks at 2 quarters beyond that, and then 4 quarters beyond that for that employment retention. And we did quite well on both of those measures also. We exceeded 2 quarters, We met fourth quarters, which is what the yellow indicates. Obviously, I would like to see that number go up even higher in this coming program here, but I did well on both of those. And then the next slide shows the median wage, median earnings in second quarter after exit. We exceeded on 2 of the 3 here. Adult, we exceeded the goal that was set for us by the state by over almost $3,000. Dislocated worker, we also exceeded by about $2,000. We failed this measure on our young adult grant, and it is not the first time. Part of the reason why that is happening is because we support a pretty sizable chunk of Parents Alliance Employment Projects program. And although their participants do quite well on completion, even securing employment, the wage is an issue because many of them are receiving disability benefits and will only work, say, 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week. And so it's pulling our total measure down. So this year we've had conversations with them and we're looking to fix that because you don't want to fail a measure 2 consecutive years.
Do you get dinged by the federal government or is it DCEO? Like,
so our performance measures all help the state meet their performance measures. So if an area fails 2 years in a row, it's hurting the state in meeting the measurements for the federal government, if that makes sense. So what they will do is potentially, they could do everything from take your grant away that you failed in to ban a provider to different things. So it's a pretty serious situation. Like I said, we've addressed that with Parents Alliance. Next month, the contract renewal is coming through next month, right?
Yep.
And you'll see we had to decrease the total amount that we're supporting them and decrease the number of participants. They have other funding, but we can't obviously jeopardize the entire grant because of that one measure.
we can't seek an exception. Considering.
I tried
Okay.
twice. So far, no traction on that, but we are going to be renegotiating our performance measures soon. So I am going to try to push for a lower dollar amount, but I don't know that they're going to budge on it.
Yes, Member Hunter.
Thank you, Chair. Is that across other counties as well, or is that unique to us?
We serve like almost 60% of our individuals between Parents Alliance and our in-house people that we work with at the center. Almost 60% of our young adults have a documented disability, which is really high compared to other areas. Because our programming through this particular funding is really for people that are looking to work full-time. The Division of Rehab Services has WIOLA funds that are for people with disabilities. We've always been kind of doing it because we love it and the program's great. But in this one way, it doesn't necessarily completely align with the spirit. It's supposed to be more so like these young adults that are launching careers and full-time work, and we keep hitting that stumbling block. So it's a difficult thing, but yeah, it kind of is what it is at this point. I wanted to mention that in case anyone has questions next month on the Parents Alliance contract and why it's coming in a little bit lower than historical. I think we don't have too much time. I'm going to skip the success stories, but maybe I'll provide member you with one to share at County Board. Career and job search services. So beyond training services, we also help people who don't need training by just teaching them how to job search effectively, which nowadays is a lot more complicated than you might think. We do a number of other kind of networking programming, and this is all stuff that we primarily do in person at the center. You can see the numbers there for total attendees throughout the year, visitors and so forth, all the referrals that are made. Amy can pass this presentation on to you after the meeting in case anybody wants a copy of it. If you want to go to the next slide. Again, a testimonial here. The upshot of this is we get these a lot from our workshop attendees. The people of DuPage County are lucky to have worked at DuPage as an employment resource. A lot of people have tremendous success just basically learning how to use AI nowadays on how to do your job search, what your resume should look like. And that might be the only service that they need. So we serve a lot of people in that way that don't necessarily hit those performance measures. Next slide is onto our employer services. So again, strengthening the local business community by developing the workforce that they need. And there's kind of 3 primary things: incumbent worker training grants. As you know, you're most familiar with those. But we also do paid work experience. I dub that no-cost temporary workers because in a business owner's perception, that means more than whatever paid work experience is. Usually their eyes kind of light up like, yes, I want that. So that's one that we're looking to expand upon. And then just general workforce solutions and kind of consulting for businesses. Next slide goes into incumbent worker training. Here's the breakdown of the sectors. This is the most variety I've ever seen in a program year. All kinds of different projects and sectors, and you saw a whole bunch today. We had a record-setting year here with over $542,000 towards local businesses for these training initiatives. That represents 352 employees being upskilled across 8 different industries of the county. We also did our first child care grant ever with the YMCA. You just approved that one or took it for on file here. We're excited about that too. And remember, Jakob, I thought of you when I put this note. It's not great, okay? It's not the best it could be. But in 2006, when we started this program, I personally was put in charge of initiating this program back then. Chicago Glue and Machine was the second ever project that was written into existence in DuPage. And I spoke recently with their leadership at actually the breakfast, the Choose DuPage breakfast. And 20 years later, they're saying that grant, it's still visible everywhere within the company. And actually the woman is now the head of the company who was at that time the training director. So she was retained. But yes, a little bit of a long-term story there. I thought that was cool. Next slide. Paid work experience. So this is what our marketing material looks like that goes out to business clients when we visit with them. This year we did paid work experiences for 7 young adults, 3 of them with documented disabilities. They were placed at 6 different employer partners throughout the county. There's an idea of the types of roles that they were in. We spent this year approaching $80,000. This year, I have budgeted for more on this program. And recently, this committee approved the contract for the Salem Group to serve as the third party for this. That is going to help us, it should help us expand that significantly. We're also going to be doing this for adult and dislocated worker clients if they should need it beyond just youth. So that's a big part of our strategy for this upcoming year. And the next slide is about transitional jobs, which is a little bit different. This is the employer actually hires these individuals, and then we reimburse or subsidize wages for the first period of employment. We go up to $10,000. We to date have used this with 4 individuals. Our 5th is about to get placed. They've all been either through probation referrals or through, the newest person is through Cafe Liberty in Wheaton. We've been working closely with Dan Gibbons there. We have a partnership with probation, essentially. So they're referring people to us. We are trying to place them in employment and overcome that barrier by incentivizing the employer to kind of take a shot. We've found 2 good employer partners so far. It hasn't been wildly successful. It's a small sample size, but it is a kind of a challenging thing. One of the individuals was working out quite well and really loved the job, had his next court date and got incarcerated. Now he's reincarcerated, but the company wants to hire him back on when he gets released. So we're planning on expanding this program a bit to this upcoming year. Next, registered apprenticeship as a workforce solution. We had a grant to the tune of $117,000 for that. We provided ongoing kind of guidance and support to employers throughout the year on how this model can help them retain, train, and find new workers. We hosted and participated in a bunch of events for this. The upshot is we were able with this grant to use dollars in a way that we can't with our other funds, which is to incentivize companies to adopt this kind of model. And we did that with 3 local manufacturers and a local school district this year. And we also partnered with Will County on assisting an auto body employer on expanding their capacity. So there's a lot of regional work going on, but the school district one is interesting. The woman that you see there with the testimonial, she was a paraprofessional at District 15, and she marked District 15. She's in an apprenticeship program now to get her master's in education while working as a para. So it's a pretty innovative approach, and we're testing that out. I've talked to Amber Quirk about expanding it too, so we'll see where that might lead. Next. This was our social media project that through a state-funded grant this year. Those are our interns visiting. Upper left is the Crisis Recovery Center, and the middle is Pulse Studio in Lyle. They visited a total of 7 employers and created content, put it out on various social media platforms. Total impressions, which I've been told is kind of the key metric, I guess, for these platforms was over 380,000. So I think that's pretty good. And then we also funded 6 additional young adults through that just for scholarships and training programs with some of those funds. And then we have almost the end. I just wanted to highlight even beyond WIOA. So this programming is very specific. As you all know, there are specific parameters in that. But I personally and some of our senior staff at WorkNet also engage in a lot of workforce leadership beyond just those specific programs. So involvement with economic development, of course, Choose DuPage on the workforce committee there. Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation has become a great partner to us as well. I'm also part of the Naperville Workforce and Economic Development Coalition now, which I think is going to bring a lot of great rewards to the center ultimately. And then Post-Secondary Success Coalition, if anybody remembers the GPS program with the youth, there was kind of some ARPA funding, I think, that went toward. It eventually morphed into this DuPage Post-Secondary Success Coalition, which I'm a founding member of. It's been excellent. I've been giving presentations in different school districts to leadership around sort of like what the occupational landscape is, what unemployment rates are like for certain bachelor degree programs and so forth. So that's been very rewarding and will continue. And then we also work regionally, just like GSEP. Our counterpart to that is the Workforce Partners of Metro Chicago. We work regionally as directors for over 20 years, and we do similar things to what GSEP does in the sense that it's regional workforce initiatives and kind of trying to elevate our economic region nationally. So I wanted to highlight that too. And then I think that might be it. Oh, priorities. I've hit some of those, sorry guys. Overall, our allocation for this year is a 2% increase. The big bump there came with the youth grant. You can see almost a 25% increase in our young adult grant, which makes expanding partnerships for youth programming for eligible youth critical this year. We're working on that. I've mentioned how we plan to expand work-based learning. Expanding supportive service supports, I really want to highlight because this is a gap. There's a lot of programs out there, even within the county. I have identified a couple of things, for example, that community services is doing with housing supports that I was not aware of, and that we should be weaving these things together. And so I've been in conversations with them about setting up referral systems. We all work for the same finance department, like trying to make those connections stronger so that when we have a client who needs housing assistance who's living in their car, we don't have to start calling every township and calling community. Like there should just be a mechanism there to use our dollars to help that person. So I'm building that out, and that's something that I'll probably continue to highlight here. The child care assistance is a huge thing that we've been in talks around, maybe adding new supports for that. So that's, I know we're 10 minutes over here. I apologize for running a little long, but yeah, I would be happy to take any questions now or later. We will send this presentation out to the members.
Thank you, Lisa. That was a lot of information, and you guys are doing amazing work over at WorkNet DuPage. Like, I can't believe all the stuff that you did in that year. So thank you to everybody at WorkNet and also finance and HR here too.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments for Lisa this time? No.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful. And it's really nice to see how Choose DuPage and the work that you're doing also kind of dovetails, right? All the stuff that's happening in our local economy. Cool. All right. Any old business? Any new business? Okay, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.